Welcome back to Unfuck Your Money, the podcast where go-getters thrive financially. Have you ever noticed that most people know what they should be doing financially? They know that they should be saving more, spending less, paying off their debt, invest, budget, and stop emotional spending. Well, so why don't they? If information was enough, we'd all have healthy saving accounts and retirement funds bursting at the seams. I don't think the problem is a lack of information. In fact, many of my clients can recite every personal finance book under the sun. Financial advice isn't necessarily wrong. However, it assumes that we are operating at full capacity. The challenge is trying to apply good financial advice while also navigating real life. Stress, uncertainty, things like illness, caregiving, grief, burnout, the rising cost of living, relationship challenges, and everyday pressures of just being human. My name is Nadz. I am a behavioral finance coach and a somatic practitioner, and over the past 7 years, I have helped clients pay off debt, reduce financial anxiety, build savings, increase their income, and create healthier financial habits and develop a calmer, more empowered relationship with money. Because financial wellness isn't just about numbers. It's about understanding the behavior behind your money so you can bridge the gap between knowing what to do and actually doing it. My hope is that every episode leaves you with a little bit more awareness, a little bit more self-compassion, and one practical step you can take towards a healthier relationship with your money and with yourself. Now, let's dive into today's episode. Hello and welcome back to Unfuck Your Money. I'm your host, Nadz. A client recently shared that she has been waking up in the middle of the night with money worries. I am obviously sharing this with her permission, and I have changed some details to protect her privacy. So my client, let's call her Sarah, is thinking about expanding her family, and her mind immediately starts racing along the lines of, how will she continue working? She works for herself. What would it feel like to rely more heavily on her partner financially? What if becoming a mother changes her earning power? What if one decision sets off a chain of problems she cannot yet predict? This actually strikes very close to home for me. I had the same spiraling 3 a.m. thoughts or money thoughts on many occasions in my life, like when we moved across the world in the middle of a pandemic and when we bought a house, just to name a few. We lie in bed thinking, what if I lose my job? What if the roof leaks? What if my mom needs care? What if I get sick? What if the market crashes? What if I never retire? What if? I've been hearing the same version of this from clients, from friends, and even from myself. It feels as if many of us are carrying more uncertainty these days than usual. Uncertainties about work, about health, about caregiving, housing, retirement, and what life may cost us next. The nervous system does not particularly enjoy uncertainty. It prefers enough predictability to know whether we are safe and what we need to do next. That does not mean uncertainty is inherently dangerous or that every worried thought is a trauma response. It simply means that human beings, us, we naturally look for patterns, we naturally look for answers and some sense of control. We can even feel activated by uncertainty when the event itself is exciting. So think about the days before a wedding, a new job, or a major trip or a move. Excitement and fear, they can coexist because they both involve stepping into something that is out of our hands and we cannot completely control or predict. So when we are faced with uncertainty, our mind often tries to help by rehearsing or predicting or trying to find certainty in some way. So sometimes it says, okay, let's imagine every possible catastrophe now because then we will be prepared, then maybe nothing will surprise us. And sometimes that kind of thinking genuinely does reveal some useful things. I will be talking about that in a minute. But sometimes the mind confuses thinking with preparing or with, I don't know, prediction, really. We go around the same mental loop without gaining any new information or taking any meaningful action. And then there's this other factor that influences how intensely uncertainty can affect us, which is our capacity. The same financial unknown or the same unknown in general can feel manageable or even exciting when we are rested, when we're supported, when we're feeling emotionally steady. But it can feel like the same thing can feel completely overwhelming and can cause us to spiral when we are already depleted. When our capacity is low, uncertainty feels urgent. We are more likely to move outside of our window of tolerance, and we experience every thought as an emergency, every new event as an emergency. In trauma, in nervous system work, the window of tolerance describes the range in which we can remain present, think clearly, and respond flexibly without tipping into overwhelm or shutting down. So when I'm within that range, uncertainty and the unknown can feel exciting to me. And if it's not exciting, I can always like if I'm in within my window of tolerance, I can be like, okay, this is unknown. I'm sure it'll work out. I have a little bit of faith that is available, a little bit of excitement, a little bit of like, okay, I'll work this out no matter what. Some uncertainties, like I was saying, they can still feel uncomfortable, but they don't feel like an emergency. When we're within a window of tolerance, we can pause, we can consider our options, we can actually make choices. Choice becomes available to us. But when we're outside of that window of tolerance, we may become highly activated. We have racing thoughts, compulsive planning, repeatedly checking our bank accounts, or asking for reassurance, or searching online for answers at 2 in the morning. Or we may move into the opposite direction. Okay, so being outside of our window of tolerance can put us into this hyper activation, hyper arousal, or it can put us into this hypo arousal, which is in the direction of shutdown, disconnection, or avoidance. Okay, so in this case, we are flung outside of our window of tolerance into like shut down. We avoid our accounts. We avoid what we're worried about. We become absolutely avoidant. And, so in ordinary language, it's the difference between this is uncertain, but I can handle not knowing everything right now. That's when we're within or inside that window of tolerance. And when we're outside of that window of tolerance, it's like we need that certainty. We need an answer immediately, or something terrible is going to happen. And we truly, truly, with every cell of our body, we truly believe that something terrible is going to happen. Okay, so our ability to tolerate uncertainty can shrink when we are sleep deprived, when we are physically unwell, when we are burnt out, when we're grieving, when we're caregiving, when we're isolated, when we're financially stretched, when we're navigating several changes at once, or when we're already carrying unresolved fear from an earlier experience. So if you're finding yourself waking up in the middle of the night worrying about hypothetical money scenarios, your question is not always, why am I being so irrational? Sometimes the better question is, what else am I carrying that is making this uncertainty feel overwhelming or even impossible to hold? If money feels harder because life feels heavier, this is exactly the kind of work that I do with clients. If you feel like your money stress isn't just about the numbers, that your capacity has been stretched by caregiving, burnout, health concerns, work pressure, or simply by carrying too much, by just being a human being in 2026, you don't have to untangle all of that alone. This is exactly the kind of work where what we can do together in my sessions. We can understand what is happening beneath the financial behavior. I can help you build more capacity and finding practical steps that actually fit into the season of the life that you're in. You can book this introductory session that is at a reduced cost through the link in the show notes. Building capacity. It is a foundational step, and it's something you deserve support with, whether or not you choose to work with me. I also want to leave you with 2 tools to work on this today on your own. Okay, the first tool we're going to talk about is a practical tool. It will help you turn your 3 a.m. worries into actual action steps. The second tool will help you deal with the emotional aspect of the issue. It will help support the part of you that still feels afraid even after you've done what you reasonably can. Because some money stress, it needs a plan, and some money stress, it needs care. And I'm going to support you with both today on this episode. Okay, so let's start with some practical tools. So, okay, let's rebuild this scenario. You're up at night, you're worrying, and this can, whatever I'm going to share with you now, it can apply to whatever you're worried about. But since this is the Unfuck Your Money podcast, I'm going to stick with a money worry example. So, again, you're up at night, you're worrying about something in the future, something unpredictable, outside of your control, and potentially expensive. Maybe it could deplete your savings, it will change the way you earn, maybe it'll change the way that your household needs to spend. So I've found over the years that financial worry can contain useful information about what we feel unprepared for. So instead of arguing with our worry or ignoring it or believing it wholeheartedly, can we take a step back and ask ourselves, what is my mind trying to prepare me for? I also found that tossing and turning in bed while your mind is spinning at 100 miles an hour is actually very frustrating. So if you find yourself doing that, this is what I would suggest that you do. Get up. Make yourself a cup of herbal tea and get your journal out and write down whatever is on your mind. Usually for me, my thoughts are they're very blurred, they're like tangled up, so they become less blurred when I categorize them. So for example, it helps me separate the worries into categories, into health, work, family, house, money, and whatever else is present. Then I ask, what is the specific problem my mind is trying to prevent? Then narrow it down further. Is this happening now? Or is this likely to happen soon? Or is it just like, there's something, it is a possibility. It's merely a possible thing that can happen. This question matters because every imaginable possibility could just be your creative mind just working against you, and it does not require a plan. Okay, so it's important to discern if this is actually happening imminently, likely to happen, or it's just a creative a creative antic that your mind has gone on. Okay, then ask yourself, what information would genuinely help me? What conversations need to happen? What is one small action I can take? So, for my client who is worrying about motherhood and money, this might look like understanding parental leave options, discussing financial expectations with her partner, estimating childcare, household costs, estimating how much it might cost to hire a nanny that would take care of the baby part time while she works once or twice a week. Maybe it's saving a small emergency or transition fund or just gathering more information. Obviously, I'm not suggesting that she completes this list at 3 in the morning. The goal is to capture the concern and identify her next steps. So her mind is no longer spiraling, needing to keep repeating it over and over again in an effort to make sure that she remembers. Preparation creates movement. It gives new information. It shows us what we're not prepared for. It's useful, right? Sometimes. It gives us information, it gives us a decision, or it can like a concrete next step action. A practical step, however, it doesn't guarantee that everything's going to be okay. But what it does on a nervous system level is that it shows your nervous system that you're responding rather than abandoning yourself. Okay, so that can actually create a bridge between financial action and building that financial confidence and building self-trust. So this is the practical step that I think seems really, really simple, but it really is important. It really, really is important that we don't just keep tossing and turning in bed, making or willing it to go away, or self-medicating, trying to just sleep through. If your mind is trying to tell you something or warn you about something, it's actually maybe trying to prepare you. Okay. But on the other hand, your mind is can also be doing what I call a certainty seeking loop. So what happens is we identify the practical step, but your mind keeps going. It needs one more calculation, one more scenario, one more question. Are we absolutely sure? What if this isn't enough? What if something else is happening? What if something else happens that I cannot predict? What if I make the wrong choice? What if, da 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 da. This is what we call, or what I'm now calling, a certainty seeking loop. The mind begins fear based forecasting. It generates new versions of the same threat in hope that the next thought will finally remove the uncertainty and make us feel safe. Okay, this is where we can distinguish that preparation type of worry from fear-based forecasting. Because useful preparation, it gives us new information, it gives us decision, it gives us action. But fear-based forecasting, it keeps us creating more versions of a problem we cannot fully solve maybe today or ever, because like I said, it could just be a creative problem that your mind is you're a creative person, so I would imagine that the way that your worry loops is also creative. So it could be useful to ask yourself, is this thought helping me prepare, or is it asking me to produce certainty or manufacture certainty that does not exist? Because some worries need action, others, they need emotional care. And often, after we have taken the reasonable action that is available to us or mapping it down, there is still a frightened part that is asking, how do I know we'll be okay? That part may not need another spreadsheet, another search, or another calculation. It may need to know that it will not be left alone with the uncertainty. We all have this part, no matter what age we are, no matter how competent we are, even if we're therapists, like even if we know this shit and teach it to others, we are always going to have a part that cannot like have the capacity for uncertainty or does not want to be alone with uncertainty. Same thing. This is where we may need something other than another answer or another calculation. This is where we may need reassurance. We may need to turn towards the part that is frightened and help it feel less alone. So, I want to close today with a short internal family systems or IFS inspired reflection. So, obviously, before we begin, do not try this while you're driving, but yes, you can most certainly do this at 3 in the morning. Remember, with this reflection, you are completely in charge. You can keep your eyes open, you can pause at any point, or stop it altogether if it gets too much. So let's begin this reflection. Begin by noticing the room around you. Let your eyes gently land on a few things that remind you of where you are. Notice the chair or the couch or the bed that's beneath you. Notice the floor that is holding your weight. Take one slow breath in and let it out gently. I'm not asking you to force yourself to relax. I just want you to notice that right now you are here and that you do not need to solve your entire future in the next 5 minutes. Now bring to mind one financial worry. Choose something present, but not necessarily overwhelming. Okay, not the biggest fear that you have ever carried, just one worry that has been asking for your attention. As you notice it, see whether you can become curious, not only about the problem, but about the part of you that is carrying the worry. Where do you notice this part? Perhaps it's a sensation in your body, or it comes up as an image, or a voice, or a tightness in your chest, or a particular age, or simply a sense that something inside of you is afraid. There is never a wrong way for a part of you to appear, okay? Just accept or receive whatever is showing up for you right now. Now, notice how you feel towards this worried part. Do you feel curious? Do you feel compassionate? Do you feel patient? Or is there another part of you that is feeling annoyed, ashamed, or critical, or desperate to make that worry go away? So, if another part is present, that is okay. You do not need to push it away. See whether you can thank that part for trying to help and ask whether it might be willing to soften or give you just a little space for the next few moments. It doesn't have to disappear. You are only asking it to give you room to listen to the worry. Now turn your attention back towards the worried part. You might imagine it sitting beside you, standing near you, or simply being held in your awareness. Let it know. I'm not here to silence you. I'm not here to argue with you. I would like to understand what you are trying to do for me. And then ask it very gently, what are you afraid would happen if you stopped worrying about this? Maybe it believes you would become careless. Maybe it fears that you would be caught off guard. Maybe it thinks no one else will protect you. Maybe it believes that worrying is the only thing standing between you and disaster. Whatever comes up, see whether you can receive it without correcting it. You might even say to it, that makes sense. I understand why you have been working so hard. Thank you for trying to protect me. And now ask it, what do you need from me today? Perhaps it needs a practical action. Maybe it needs a conversation. Maybe it needs a written plan. Maybe it really needs rest, reassurance, or a boundary. Maybe it wants you to call somebody trustworthy or simply for you to stay present with it and listen. If it asks you for something you can realistically offer, let it know how and when you will do that. Something like tomorrow morning, I will look at the parental leave policy, or this weekend, I will talk to my partner, or I will write this concern down now so that you don't have to keep repeating it. Or, okay, now I'm going to help us rest. Never promise anything that you cannot guarantee, but promise only what is genuinely within your control because we're building trust between you and that part. That part needs reassurance and it needs guidance. Now ask the part, how does it feel to know that I hear you and have a next step? We do not require it to feel completely calm. It may still be worried. It may still feel, concerned, but can it feel 1% less alone? Because that is enough. Ask whether it would be willing to let you rest for now, knowing that you will return to the concern at the time that you have named. Perhaps you can imagine placing the worry somewhere safe for tonight, maybe in a notebook or a shelf or inside a container or beside you rather than in you or on top of you. Let the part choose what feels right. And before you close this reflection, let the part know that part doesn't need to carry this alone anymore. That you may not be able to predict everything in the future, but you will keep listening. You will take the actions that are yours to take, and that you will return to visit it, to check in with it. And take one slow breath. Notice the support that's beneath you again, and look around the room and reconnect with the present moment. And when you're ready, allow this practice or this reflection to come to a close. Again, this reflection seems simple, but when we're up at 3 in the morning, we cannot do complicated things. Actually, your nervous system and your parts, they don't want complicated things. What they need is support. What they need is this reassurance that you've got you. or you are going to contact or get in touch with the people that are there, that are supposed to support you, or that can actually support you when you cannot. um some steps are not ours to take, they're ours to map out, but we need to learn how to ask for support as well. So here's what I want to leave you with today. We cannot create a future with no financial uncertainty. That is not the goal. The goal is to build enough practical and internal support and capacity that uncertainty does not always feel like an emergency. We prepare what we can be prepared for, and we support the part of us that believes it must keep worrying until certainty arrives. Your word parts do not need you to predict the future or create like this future where no unpredictability happens. That's not what they need. They need you to know that they will not have to face it alone. Life will always contain uncertainty, but we can become increasingly able to meet it with wisdom, courage, and with self-trust. We might not know exactly what is coming. What is coming might actually delight us and surprise us. But when we don't have the capacity, when we don't have the tools, everything can feel overwhelming. So we can learn to trust when things arrive, we will be there for ourselves. I hope that this episode is helpful. If you find yourself tossing and turning at midnight, 2 a.m., 3 a.m., please play it again. And it's a practice. Keep at it. And remember, I'm here for you. Just book a session if you need me. Love you and leave you. And I'll see you next time on Unfuck Your Money.